Orlando.
Welcome to the OZone.
Welcome to the OZone.
Welcome to the OZone. Welcome to the OZone.
The voice of Magic fans.
Welcome back to another episode of the OZone podcast, the voice of Magic fans. Episode, we're calling this one 13.5. What's going on, everybody?
Hey.
Yo.
What's up?
So real quick, we'll jump into the roll call, and then we're going to go over a lot of topics. We're going to talk today about our mid-season review. On today's podcast, we are recording virtually for this mid-season review. But roll call, Justin.
Yo.
Al.
Yo.
Elise. And myself, Anthony. And so I'm pretty excited to talk about the mid-season. I feel like there's a lot of good, a lot of bad, and a lot of in the middle. But let's jump into the numbers. So currently right now, our record is 21-24. This time last year, we were 19-26. Currently 7th in the East. We're 1.5 games ahead of Brooklyn and about 4 games ahead of Detroit. Our team stat leaders right now, Nikola Vucevic, 19 points per game, Fournier, 18.9, and Terrence Ross off the bench, 13.7 points per game. Not too bad. Rebound leaders, Vucevic with 11.1, Gordon, 7.2 rebounds, Isaac, who we're missing desperately, 6.9 rebounds per game, assists being led by Augustine with 4.7 assists per game, Fultz, 4.6 assists per game, and our three-point shooting percentage, Justin, you're going to like this a lot, Fournier leading the way with 40.6, and then Nikola Vucevic coming in second with 36.9%. And then, obviously, Augustine right behind that with 34.6 shooting from the three-point line. What surprises any of you about those numbers? Anything that jump out to you?
Vucevic being our second leader in three-point percentage.
For sure. I did not expect that.
I didn't expect that either. I think
that's a sad stat.
Yeah, is that a problem that your center is second on the team in three-point percentage?
Well, I don't think so.
Why not?
I mean, yeah, why not? But also 36.9% is above the league average, right? So he's going to be on the top of a lot of teams' lists. So I think that's just showing that DJ and Fultz are getting Vucevic in the right position to make those, take those open threes. And again, he's shooting higher than most NBA players. So it's not strange.
I was actually surprised not to see Terrence Ross in the top 3. I mean, obviously, Terrence Ross is more of a volume shooter compared to the other 3. Evan Fournier throws about a really good number out there, so it's good to see that he's above the 40%. But definitely, Vucevic, 36.9. I still find that crazy.
I think it's a testament to today's NBA. That's what a big guy is supposed to do, especially in our team. We need a big guy that spreads the floor because, again, we have Markelle out there. We have Isaac out there when he's healthy. Gordon, guys that are not known to be three-point shooters just yet. So we got to have Vucevic playing that role. So in our team, it's normal. Not sure if in another team that will be the norm, but we'll take it for sure.
I think it's actually really sad. I think I sent you guys a link about the decline of the big man that ESPN's putting on right now on YouTube. It's very sad that our big man, who isn't a three-point shooter, is leading us. Is our second leader in three-point shots. Like, that's very sad because that's not his skill set. His skill set is back to the basket, mid-posts, and then rebounding, putbacks. We're not putting him in positions where he's more dominant at.
So you're saying – So are you arguing that Vuce is shooting that high of a percentage because he's forced to play that role,
Correct.
Not necessarily because he should be playing that role?
Correct. Like, he's dominant inside. He's a solid double-double inside. He's solid double-double from free throw line down. We're putting him in a position where he's not going to be successful because now he's going to be sprinting back. He's the first line of defense on defense. Guys, that's not his strength.
Nope.
And what did we see yesterday? Blow right back to the basket a lot because we're putting him in a position where he's not successful.
I've always said that I really want to see how well he does when he's not our first scoring option. Like you want him to play a certain role, but he's kind of forced to play outside of that because he's really our best chance at winning by really running the offense through him. And offensively, he's right now our best offensive player. He has been for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
But
and he can do it.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure. Now, seventh in the East. Obviously, there was a lot of expectations since last season. I expected for us to be way higher in the Eastern Conference. But for you guys, has it been what you expected? Seventh seed in the East?
No. I think we all can agree to that. I think we all expected this team to be somewhere in the fifth, fourth, worst case scenario, sixth seed in the East. So to that degree, I would say I don't, it's not what I expected. However, if we take into account what's happened so far this season, the injuries, everything that's happened to our team, everything's been pretty much bad so far from a health standpoint. I'll take it. But going back to October and September, not what I expected from us.
So I would say my first article I wrote for the Zone BB was about the season preview. And the heading was, "It's a marathon, not a sprint." And for the Christmas break, I call it the holiday season break, I predicted that the Magic would go 15-10. Once again, I am a homer, so I'm always bet the over. Right now, we are 10 and around 13 during this time. We have a couple more days. So I guess I was kind of close, but not really. I did think that this would be the toughest part of the season for us, just because that longest road trip and we played some juggernauts back to back to back. But I mean, some of those losses, like to Atlanta, hurt. That was a shoe win that we should have had. So we lost some games that we definitely should have won, and a lot of it comes down to turnovers and shooting.
I agree. I think coming into the season, everybody expected this, crazy takeoff. It was funny today, like I had 2K on for a little bit, and even the commentators in 2K said, the Magic were trying to convince everyone during the off season that this season was going to be different, that this season they were going to, do all of these things. And that's not what we're seeing. So it was like, I think they said something like, now they're not even convincing themselves or something like that.
Yeah, 2K is way too real.
Yes.
They're getting too good.
Right. So after my feelings were hurt, no, I'm just kidding. After hearing that, I was like, wow, that's a pretty accurate description of what's going on. But the thing is, I don't think we're missing the mark by all that much, realistically, because say you had them at 15-10, they're 10-13. Mm-hmm. So that's a 3-game difference. If the Magic were 500 right now, halfway through January, we wouldn't say that they were failing. It's about controlling the narrative. When you say, I'm going to play so well that I'm going to amaze people and I'm going to do better than they expect, and when they don't see that, now automatically you're the topic of conversation.
Is it fair to say that we're not at what we expected to be due to the amount of injuries that we've had to fight through?
Maybe. Only thing that comes to mind is even when we were healthy and we had Isaac out there, we were not looking really good. We were having some struggles. The same issues we're having right now. We couldn't make a shot. We couldn't hit a three. And the defense was great. So some things just don't change with this team. So I don't think that has been a factor, to be honest, as much. But I'm sure we would have won maybe 1 or 2 more games had Isaac been healthy. Augustine never went down. But I don't think it's a make or break to our team so far.
See, I'm gonna go against that because I think with Isaac, for example, being injured, and MCW being injured, and DJ being injured, and Aaron Gordon and Vooch also having injuries, it kind of forced Markelle to break out of his shell a little bit, right? It forced him to play longer minutes. It forced him to take on a leadership role on the team where he might have not necessarily have had to if those guys would have been healthy the whole time around. So I think it benefited his development and possibly sped up his development. Because, again, if those guys were healthy, I think we would have kept Markelle on a crutch. He would have continued to play 20 minutes a game or split 22 minutes a game with DJ. So I think that while it did hurt us to have those guys injured, I think there was some type of benefit to it.
I mean, if you really think about it, like last season, we didn't go through any injuries, hardly any. So the fact that, we're kind of going through the bug right now, I guess it kind of is the NBA's way of evening us out, balancing it.
Basketball gods balancing everything out. I think it comes down to roster construction. I mean, what was our weakness last year? 3-point shooting. What's our weakness this year? 3-point shooting. who do we pick up to answer any of those questions?
Farouk Aminu.
Farouk Aminu and Markelle Fultz. That's who we relied on. A guy who couldn't shoot for 2 years, and Farouk Aminu, whose production has been dropping over time. We didn't see that injury coming, but still, like, did we answer any of those questions?
And I think hopefully those questions are answered closer to the trade deadline. But what has been the biggest surprise in the first half of the season?
Markelle.
Yeah, I think anything other than Markelle is a lie. Markelle has been – this guy went from not playing to being traded to this team to sitting out for 10, 11 months, having every single person who had anything to do with the NBA questioning whether his mental capacity was fit enough to even play a professional sport, and to come back and earn a starting job, and not only just earn it but be an assist leader, you know, and a double-digit point producer for us. There's no way you could say that that's not the biggest surprise of the year.
100%.
Yeah, I think for me a little bit different. So obviously Markelle Fultz, I think is the obvious answer. For me, it's just staying in the playoff picture. If you would have told me back in September, October, hey, the Magic are going to lose MCW, Isaac, Aminu, and Augustine for a significant portion of the season, but yeah, they're going to be above 500 and they're going to be the 7th seed in the East, I would have laughed at you and said, there's no way, you know, unless we traded for an all-star, that's not going to happen. So just the fact that we stayed in the playoff picture to me has been impressive and something that has surprised me. And I'm going to give Justin some credit. His boy, Evan Fournier, I think he's struggled, to say the least. He struggled last year. He stepped up this year, especially when Vooch went out. He really became a player that we counted on to score the ball and to really rely on to win games for us. So he stepped up. The issue, as we've discussed in other episodes, is what do we do with him now? But up to this point in the season, really has been a surprise.
But the thing is, the thing that I struggle with is, yes, we're the 7th seed, but we're 3 games under 500. I mean, like that. I think that goes more to prove that the conference as a whole, other than like the top 3-4 teams, is weak, right? Because for you to be 3 games under 500 and still be solidly holding a playoff spot means that a third of the entire conference is non-competitive. So
but I think
if
you look at the West, also the West is actually kind of the same thing. The bottom 2 teams, 7 and 8 seed, are above 500. So I think it's just a more balanced NBA. You know, we don't have the Warriors as the one dominant team and everyone else kind of sucking. It's every team now actually is a decent team, and any given night you can win or lose a game. So I think it's different this season than years past.
I'm looking at the standings, and the top 6 teams in the East are all winning. They all have above 500 records, with the 5th and 6th place teams, which are the Pacers and 76ers. They're both 29 wins. One has 14 losses. The other one has 16. One has 16 losses. The other one has 17 losses. Like, they're getting wins. These are really good teams this year. The East is, I think, more competitive on the top half, but the bottom half of the East, that's terrible.
The biggest surprise, and granted, you guys all brought up really good points. Evan Fournier stepping up the way that he stepped up. Markelle Fultz, the obvious. But Jonathan Isaac, like I knew he was good defensively. Last season, he was really good defensively. But we're talking about he was in, you know, all defensive, all defense team conversation. Like, you couldn't have a conversation about all NBA defense without incorporating Jonathan Isaac. And I think that he has just propelled this team so much because of the way that, you know, he carries the anchor for us defensively, that I think that I wasn't expecting that this season. I was expecting maybe a couple more, but the fact that he's there and he's been able to play at that level now, mind you, I feel like the injury kind of, you know, held him back a little bit. But we were sitting here having a conversation of, you know, is it Anthony Davis Defensive Player of the Year? Jonathan Isaac? Should Jonathan Isaac even be mentioned? The fact that the conversation sparked, I think, is a massive deal, not only for Jonathan Isaac, but for the team.
I got something that might be a hot take. The decline of our all-star, no longer being an all-star in the East. This time last year, Vooch was getting votes. He was getting fan votes, and there was talks of him already being one of the top centers in the league. He's no longer in that conversation.
in a
And-
weak East.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone saw that coming. I mean, coming into this, I thought Vooch was going to be a 2-time All-Star. It's going to be
Do you attribute the fact that he was gone for 2.5 weeks to that? Because I mean, even with being gone 2.5 weeks, he's still averaging 19 points per game.
He's still
and
producing,
double-digit
but
rebounds.
he's still producing, but does it look good?
Yeah.
Does it look like last year?
Last year he was what? He got voted into All-Star, putting up like 20.7 points per game and 12 rebounds per game. This year he's averaging 19 and 11. So it's
It's not too different, but you're right. It doesn't.
There's an eye test.
His average is there, right? It's close, but it just looks really ugly. He's second
Eye
in the
test.
team in 3-pointing and 3-point shooting. His stats, he's contributing, he's doing work, but you're right, it doesn't look pretty.
So are we 100% saying Vooch doesn't get a reserve spot for the All-Star game?
I don't see it.
Unless someone gets hurt.
I think if one guy makes it in our team, it will be Evan Fournier, just because I feel like he's played the best this season out of all players in our roster.
You.
Vooch, I think it's a more popular name amongst all-stars in our team, if you want to call it that. But again, deservedly so, Evan Fournier will be the guy for me.
So I was listening to the Ringer podcast. I know some people don't like that, Bill Simmons, and they did their picks for all-stars in the East. And it came down to 2 players that they don't think deserve it at all. One is Trae Young. The other one is Bradley Beal. They're both on losing teams, non-playoff contending teams. There's going to be a lot of people who think, listen, the fan vote, people are going to vote who they want. But the coaches and players vote, those things matter. You can be the best player on the worst team, but guess what? You're not winning. At the end of the day, these coaches and players care about winning.
But Trae Young was just named a starter, so Bill Simmons is wrong.
God, he was wrong. But they all voted him in. They all picked him in. But yeah, I want Trae Young to be in. But if there's not going to be anyone on our team right now, Fournier got to be it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't deny players like Trae Young and Bradley Beal. They've been balling out, and every time we played it against the Wizards and the Hawks, they completely torched us. So I definitely see. I completely disagree with Bill Simmons. But if he wants to throw Evan Fournier in there, Nikola Vucevic, by all means, I'll take the free marketing. But I mean, I've read a couple articles myself where Nikola Vucevic, they mentioned his name in honorable mention. They'll throw out 20 players that they feel should be in there, and Nikola Vucevic is definitely in the conversation. But I think that's more so because he was in there last season more so than what he's been able to do this season.
That's true.
He's more of a recognized name now. Is there anything this midway through that has disappointed you?
Yes. There's a guy out there named Aaron Gordon.
Oh, man, I'm a mind reader.
Who, unfortunately, I'm not even going to go on the offensive side and say, this guy was supposed to average 20 points a game, blah, blah, blah. I've never believed that's his role on our team. But I did not expect the following. 13.4 points a game, 7.2 rebounds, 29% for the three-point range. Those are all the worst. Actually, he got worse in all those categories from last season. So if you would have told me that back in July, August, when he was posting videos on IG, working out with Kobe and all this stuff, I would have told you it's impossible. This guy's going to get better from last year. He just has to. So unfortunately for me, Aaron Gordon has been the biggest disappointment halfway through.
Training with Kobe messed him up.
It did.
Yeah.
He did.
For me, and you guys could probably guess where this is gonna go. But for me, it's Mo Bamba. Mo Bamba, he was supposed to be that guy. Like we spoke about, he was supposed to be the guy that everyone felt comfortable letting Vooch walk last year. We even conceded that. We said this is a real conversation we're gonna have. Let's let Vooch walk, and we'll hand the keys over to Mo Bamba. So far this season, averaging 5.2 points, 1 turnover per game, 1.4 blocks per game, 0.4 steals, and 0.7 assists. His total and 5 rebounds. So he's a 5-5 guy right now. I don't think if anybody was to sit here and say that this is what we expected from Mo Bamba year 2. Granted, he did have injuries his first season, but Vooch went down this year. He had splits with Kem Birch. He had opportunities to really, take the job away from Vooch and help the team feel more comfortable with letting Vooch walk or trading him away this year, and that has not happened. So Mo Bamba to me is the biggest disappointment.
Agreed. Both of those two. I mean, this was Aaron's year to stand out. I really thought this was going to be AG's year to make a name for himself instead of Isaac. I thought Isaac's year would be next year.
Right.
But you know what? That is what it is. And honestly, I just thought about this. Can we blame Mo for Jonathan Isaac's injury, making the coaching staff play Jonathan Isaac in the post to get beat up? Like,
yes, it is all Mo's fault.
almost fault. Come on, Mo.
Shame on you, Mo. You guys all bring up really good points. Aaron Gordon, to me, I agree with you, at least. This was supposed to be his season. I felt this offseason that he was going to be slam dunk champion and he was going to be an all-star this season. And not just us, like in the media's eyes, this was supposed to be his year also. And we haven't seen it. Mo Bamba, we haven't seen any real development from him. Not anything, not one category that he's done better at from last season. Zero improvements in my eyes. In my eyes, he's definitely digressed. But the one player that I can say that's just a little outside that none of you mentioned that I've been disappointed with is DJ Augustine. I told myself this offseason that our bench was going to be ridiculous because I felt so confident with DJ Augustine as our starting point guard that all I asked for was if we can get Markelle to play and if he can be just a little bit better than DJ Augustine, to have DJ inside of our second unit and lead that team, then our bench is going to be crazy. Like, we're going to have the best bench in the league. We're going to be deep. We're going to be able to score more off the bench because of his ability to shoot shots and hit big shots and get other teammates involved. And I just feel like we haven't seen that. I feel our bench is still struggle a lot.
It's Terrence Ross against the world.
Exactly.
That's what it feels like.
If it's not for Terrence Ross, then the offense is it's not good off the bench. You're starting to see a little bit of a resurgence from Wesley Iwundu, but he's in the starting lineup. We never really saw that in the second unit. So I just felt like DJ Augustine would have made the second unit that much better, and I don't feel that was the case.
Now let me ask you guys this. I know we talked about Bamba already, but if you guys look at the minutes per game he's averaging, 15.3 minutes per game, are you guys disappointed at all that we're not throw him out there a little more, especially with Isaac being hurt? We talked about it on our last episode. Justin brought up a good point, playing him at the power forward position a little bit more since, again, we need a body out there. What do you guys think about that? 15 minutes per game for a guy that was a 6th pick in the draft who, by all we know, is healthy. What do you feel about that?
I think we're stuck in between a rock and a hard place, like they say, because yes, where he was drafted should allot him more minutes, right? He should be playing 20 plus minutes per game, right? But we also have the all-star in Vooch, so you don't want to kind of take too many minutes away from him either. But it's also that every time we play Mo Bamba, while he may have, 10, 12, 15-point games, he's such a liability on defense. His low post defense is terrible. Like, his awareness is bad. His frame is too small, right? His effort is still in question, and he just makes the wrong play every time. So it's like, I don't know, man. I've tried to give, and I don't want to be too hard on Mo, but I wasn't high on Mo even when we drafted him, and I've tried to give him the benefit of the doubt every time, but now he's going into year 3, right? After this year's year 3, there's no signs that I've seen other than 2 or 3 hot shooting nights. There's no signs that he's going to be, a starting caliber center in this league. So
to me, it's kind of jarring for Mo because he came from the University of Texas, who is known for having big men. I'm talking about they're dominant big men. They can run the floor. They do everything. They're super aggressive. I think the thing that's hurting Mo, he's not aggressive enough. He's a nice guy. He's a very nice guy.
And he's from Harlem.
Which I don't understand. He's a nice guy from Harlem. Come on, man. Let's bring some some dog out. You know, you're from the concrete jungle. Let me see it. I don't even think he talks trash during the games.
I don't think he's in the game long enough to talk trash.
That's true.
He's just trying to think.
Now, I mean, obviously, the bright spot of the team has been Markelle Fultz. What do you think? What do you guys think about his progress and what he's been able to do this past midseason?
So just to, and I'm gonna address Fultz now, but just to go back really quick on Mo, I also wonder, like, it's the reason why he's shooting threes at such a high rate is because he doesn't have the skill set to get in the paint.
Yeah.
So he settles, and he's had to develop that shot because he can't get it, any other way.
Does anybody know how long his wingspan is? Above 7'5", right?
It's 7'10", and he held that record for a whole one season.
So the reason why I bring that up is I'm tired of seeing smaller guards front this man and push him up, block him, tip the ball, tip the pass. I'm just sick and tired of it. Like, Mo, jump, put your arms out. Let's get a hook. Like, let's figure it out. Someone get a hold of Elijah. We need to go see him this summer immediately. He needs to be in Houston this summer.
I agree. But Ant, what was the question on Fultz?
That Markelle Fultz, he's definitely been the bright spot for the team. So what do you guys think about him? Obviously, he exceeded everyone's expectations, but for me personally, I remember in the beginning of the season, the media was still unsure about Markelle Fultz. Nobody was expecting for him to play. The latest, before our first game, the latest news was, John Hammond really couldn't give an update on Markelle Fultz. Obviously, they were keeping that information close to their chest, and they really didn't want to put a timeline or put any pressure. But I mean, we were kind of ridiculed in the media because it's kind of like, what is the Orlando Magic front office doing? Like, they don't even know what's going on with Markelle Fultz. And then out of nowhere, it's kind of like Markelle Fultz is playing in the preseason. Then Markelle Fultz is, he's not playing that much, but he had really good spurts. And then he jumps into the starting lineup. Then he scores over 20 points. Then he has the triple-double. He's scoring on LeBron. So his whole entire midseason went from nothing to everything.
I think – go ahead, man.
I was going to say, I think it's impressive. I mean, if you think about where he came from, but we traded for him. We didn't know what we had in him. We just acquired a point guard. We're looking ahead to the future. All we knew is last time we saw him on the court, he couldn't shoot the ball. He couldn't stay on the court because of that. He couldn't shoot a free throw because he couldn't raise his shoulder. And all of a sudden, 6 months passed by, and this kid is now starting at 21 years old, which is technically his rookie season. Mm-hmm. And now he's averaging 12 points a game. He's actually shooting 46% from the field. He couldn't shoot a three last year. Well, wait, he's shooting 26%, 35% in the last 12 games, 74% from the free throw line. So if you would have told me that, again, 6 months ago, I'll say the same thing again. I wouldn't believe you. So to me personally, this kid has exceeded every expectation. He's made me want to go to games. He's made me want to tune into games, even when I know we're going to lose a game. Just because, like with the Lakers, he'll do something special. So I think the fans, Orlando have embraced him. We are all thankful to Philly. And again, I'll say it again, thank you, Philly, for doubting him. Because, again, we got a kid that, in my opinion, can be special as soon as next year.
I think what's cool about him is his shot difficulty in the paint. His pre-mock comparisons were oddly Westbrook and James Harden, because of his creativity with the ball and his ability to get to the rim. I thought that was very far-fetched because in college he's playing in the Pac-12. I mean, they're pretty good, but it's not like the ACC. But now I kind of see it. Now I'm wondering, what is his actual year 3, which is going to be year 6, going to be? What is it going to be when the game slows down from tremendously? Because he's super herky-jerky, super creative. When he actually gets more and more confidence in a three-point shot, it's about to be scary.
He's strong with the basketball.
When
he takes a ball and he's penetrating, like, you can expect the contact, and he can still score off of that contact. So his strength and his body size Yeah, you're right. He's a little quirky in the lane. He's able to get through different angles, stuff like I've never seen before. But the fact that he has the size to go along with it is super impressive.
So that's what I was gonna say, right? So, like I said, coming into a team, joining the starting lineup, from not playing at all, and coming from the situation that he was in Philly, the two things I would say impressed me the most is his strength. Like you said, you could try to alter the shots, and he's going to alter with you, and those are still going to go in. That's impressive, but his confidence is really impressive to me because, from someone who was consistently being spoken about in a negative way, to not let any of that bother you to the point where you're confident in your own skill and your own ability to come out and, kind of silence the haters, if you will. I think that's special. I think that's a trait that, not a lot of people have. Like I remember Beats used to have a campaign where like it would be athletes or whatever on buses showing up to arenas, and like people would be throwing stuff at the bus and everything, and it'd be super crazy. And then they would put the beats on, and they would kind of like silence everybody. That's like what Markelle has going on. No beats required, but he just silences the haters.
And Justin, you're gonna like this. So on Magic Reddit, they just posted this. Dan Feldman of NBC Sports, a writer for NBC Sports, he reported that Evan Fournier received a media vote for the All-Star game. Just one. But he got one. That's an improvement from last season where he got none. So we went from 0 to 1.
Did he get any?
I really think
I want to know who the writer was that did that.
I want to know who votes. Because that guy has a new follower.
Justin, I think Justin, just come out and tell us you have a vote, right?
I think
I want to know who voted.
when I spoke to you guys before, and I went through all of Evan's stats, and then I asked you who would you take that's better than him to get 2 or 3 more points per game. So Evan is capable. I think if we played in a league where it wasn't all about stars and social media following and all of that stuff, and you didn't have to be like cool online and build that sort of superstardom to be able to be selected to a game, and it was based on just skill, I think Evan would have had a legitimate chance to be an all-star. But sadly, we are dealing with, Kyrie, who didn't play almost the whole season, gets into the all-star game, and is questionably, like, people are talking about him becoming a starter. Come on, man. Like, there's a difference between skill and superstardom or stardom, and they're not the same thing.
Watch Kyrie not even play in the game. He's going to pull off a Jimmy Butler from last year and just be like, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
I'm so sick and tired of Kyrie Irving, guys. Just sick and tired of the guy.
I think, what I find very interesting? I think if Evan Fournier was more personable with his fans on social media like he has been with Channing Frye, I think people actually would have voted for him.
I think if
That's
Evan
true.
played for any other team in playoff contention other than the Orlando Magic, he would have made the All-Star team.
I think if Evan Fournier didn't turn over the ball as much as he does in the fourth quarter when we need him to score, that he would also get more votes.
That once again comes back to our current roster construction. We have no shooters.
Except Evan Fournier, that he's one of the best shooters on the team. But it's okay. We're going to talk about the future.
One of the best shooters. Wait. Not one of the best shooters on the team. One of the best shooters in the league. If you're shooting 40.9% from three-pointer, you're toward the top of the league in three-point shooting percentage. Just saying.
Nah,
Do you think he gets the call for the 3-point competition then? Because T. Ross isn't getting it.
I hope so, because he's definitely top. I would say top 10 three-point shooters in the league, and that's without looking.
Yo, it'll be interesting to see who's on that list if Evan's not on it.
If he doesn't, I'm sure he would at least get one vote. But looking ahead, so we're going to do a quick fire drill. Looking ahead, do we make the playoffs? And if so, what seed?
Yes, I think we make it. And I'm 50-50 between the 7th or 8th seed. I like our roster, even without Isaac, better than Brooklyn. So I'm going to say we make it as a 7th seed.
I think 7th seed is where we're going to be at. I think I had us maybe in the 5th, but it's looking like 7th.
Yeah, I think seventh is probably the safest bet. We're what 8-9 games away from sixth. Not saying it's totally impossible. We still have trade deadline to look forward to, but as of right now, as the team is currently constructed, I say seventh seed.
What is one change you would like to see?
Adding a shooter. Just give me a shooter off the bench. As we said a few minutes ago, Terrence Ross against everybody, right? That's kind of what the bench is. Give me a small forward. Give me a power forward. Anybody who can make a three-pointer, so people cannot just double team T. Ross the whole time. That would make us significantly better.
I think we need a guy who's edgy and who isn't Disney safe. We need somebody other than Michael Carter Williams being our tough guy.
Kelly Oubre?
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we need, like, if we're not going to get that shooter, can we at least get someone who's a dog? Like, give me someone who brings me that Matt Barnes energy, please. I liked when Matt Barnes was here. He made us tough.
That's
I
true.
agree. For me, one change I'd like to see, there's more than one change, guys. I'd like to see Cliff allowing guys that are hot to stay on the court.
That's
And I would like to see either Derrick Rose or Kelly Oubre make that move down south.
And before we jump into the next topic, I like the move for Derrick Rose. I mentioned this earlier today on Twitter, but Derrick Rose, for me, does two major things. One, gives us a really good scorer to back up Markelle Fultz, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then two, just imagine the amount of impact a former NBA MVP could do as a mentor for a player like
number
Markelle.
one pick as well.
Absolutely. So someone that can really adapt to him, understand where he's coming from, has been through the struggles himself, has been doubted before. Definitely a huge resurgence from him since his time with Detroit. So I really, if he's a player that we can pry away, why not? Why not do it? And the fact that Markelle Fultz will go into practice every single day battling against Derrick Rose.
He'll make him better.
Just the amount of improvement that he will get from that, the amount of development. Because right now he's going against, no disrespect to DJ, but he's going against DJ Augustine.
He's my height.
I mean, you put him every day offensively, defensively against Derrick Rose, man, it's only going to push him to the next level. But so moving forward with the predictions, who needs to step up the most for the second half of the season?
Where to begin? Our bench. If we make no roster, the whole bench. If we don't make any roster changes, which it might not, our front office might really, really have faith in the roster that they constructed, which I can't blame them. We have long, athletic guys. What is our bench really producing? Can we count on T. Ross every night? Can we count on Wes every single night to really come in there and bring all the energy? Can we count on Mo to, get 7 rebounds a game if we need it? We can't rely on that. We need a better bench. I don't think it's one guy, because that one guy is not going to step up for us. We need a whole team effort, and I think the bench unit has to be able to do it.
I agree. I think the bench is one. I think holding people accountable has to be one of the biggest changes. I feel like these guys, and not all of them, and not in every circumstance, obviously, but they're too okay with losing. I need to see more passion. I need to see anger. Like, if you're indifferent toward whether you win or lose a game, you're not gonna win. The guys that care, the guys that lose a game and it's a big deal to them, and people are like, "Oh, don't overreact." Those are the guys that are successful. The guys that lose a game and it's like, "Oh, we'll get them tomorrow," and you keep saying, "We'll get them tomorrow." Well, tomorrow it'll be too late. You won't be in the playoffs, or you won't. You know what I'm saying? Like, for you to be a top level guy and lead your team to success, you have to treat winning and losing as if it's a life or death situation, in my opinion.
Mine's going to be easy. Mine's just going to be Aaron Gordon. I know we have Jonathan Isaac out at least until the playoffs. That's kind of been known now. So Gordon can kind of go back and play the power forward spot if he can just be consistent in two things: rebounding the ball and moving the ball on offense. I think that will make us again significantly better. I just don't want to see him, over dribble, step backs, behind the back dribbles. Just keep it simple. If you're open, shoot the ball. If you have a lane to the basket, go and dunk it, and fight on the rebounding, on the defensive end for rebounds. If he can do that, again, he becomes that Draymond Green that we keep saying that he can be for our team.
Yep.
That's all we need him to be. That's all we need from him.
So believe it or not, the player that I think that needs to take the next step is Markelle Fultz. But hear me out. This is why. I think that in order for this team to take it to the next level, Markelle Fultz needed to do the same thing. I've always been a strong believer that all it takes is one player to change a franchise. And I feel strongly that it can be Markelle Fultz, but it can't happen unless he takes that next step a lot sooner rather than later. So
do you think halfway into this, it's already Markelle's team?
No, not yet. Because I still feel like everything is running through. When I say it's not his team yet, the Steve Clifford has to make that point. And the offense is still running through Nikola Vucevic, is still running through Evan Fournier. Not until they decide to put the ball in Markelle Fultz's hand to score can it really be his team. And
so is that Markelle or Steve?
I think that's more Coach Cliff, 100%. I think Markelle has all the right tools to be able to do that. I would feel confident in giving him the ball now, just being able to see him do that against a team like the Lakers on the biggest stage away and kind of take the game in his hands the way that he did and really ball out. He can definitely do it. Can he do it consistently? That's yet to see, but I think that a player that can drastically change this team and make us better faster would definitely be Markelle. He just has to be the one that takes the next step in my eyes.
So I think it goes on both guys. And it goes on Markelle. It also goes on Clifford. On Markelle only because there's games where he shoots the ball 13, 15 times, and we see what happens. He scores 24, 25 points. He looks great. But there's nights like last night where he will take 7 shots the whole game. So I think that falls on the coach. The play calling has to be there for him. But I can agree with you. We need the ball in his hands a lot more in the second half of the season because he's proven already he can be a difference maker. He can win you a game when you have to score it down the stretch or make the significant play. We just need both parties to be in agreement. We need Markelle to be aggressive, and we need the calls to be played for him as well.
I think it's going to be safe to say, other than maybe Vucevic, I think the entire team wants Markelle to have the ball in their hands because I think they want to run. We have athletes, and they all look good on the floor. I mean, let's go back to the Lakers game. AG, head down. He was in attack mode, and that a lot of that had to do with Markelle having the ball in his hands.
So definitely a lot of good stuff. Mid-season review. There again, we said in the beginning of the episode, a lot of good, a lot of bad, and a lot of in between. And I feel we definitely highlighted all of the above. But let me get your final thoughts on what you guys think about the rest of the season.
So for the rest of the season, I think we'll definitely make the playoffs. I think there would have to be a severe meltdown for us to miss the playoffs. Or one of the bottom Eastern teams have to pick up somebody and just go on a crazy run. But I think it's safe to say we'll make the playoffs. If we make the playoffs this year and it's another first-round exit, do you still, are you still content with making the playoffs next year? Or does it come to a point where it's like, you got to do something else? You can't just go in and get swept or lose in 5 games in the first round. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for what the future of the Magic hold. I'm excited for the next 2 weeks. To see if John and Jeff decide to splash a little bit.
I really am hoping that the Magic hold on to that 7th place seed because if the playoffs started today, we play the Heat first round.
Ooh,
and honestly,
nice.
I think we look good because Jimmy Butler is shooting the worst. This is the worst shooting he's had in his entire career. He's shooting like 26% from three-point line. And that's their go-to playmaker. So we need to hold on to the 7th seed for dear life because right now we will play the Heat and I'm ready. In-state rivalry. I'm
I wouldn't
ready.
mind. I wouldn't mind playing definitely against the Heat or even Philly.
Philly.
I do not want to see Milwaukee in the first
They're
round by
hurt
No.
bad.
any.
No.
But if you get me Miami and you get me Philly for sure, first round,
That'll
I
be
like
fun.
our odds, 100%. We'll definitely see
I
an
think all
improvement from
Magic
last
fans should
season.
we need to be cheering for the Heat. Hold on a second, because the Raptors are in third, and we know how that went last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to see Toronto with or without Kawhi. We struggle with them all season long. But get me Miami.
I mean,
And not having Jonathan for Siakam right now, like, ugh.
that's right. I mean, for me to kind of wrap it up on my thoughts here, I would say just keep fighting, keep playing hard. In that aspect, we're looking like last year's team. Every game's coming down to the wire. No matter who we're playing tough and playing aggressive. That's, I think, all we need. It's a recipe to success of our team. We are a grit and grind team because all we do is play defense. So my expectation of the team the second half of the year is just keep battling, keep fighting, keep showing up to games with the mindset that we can win, and just go out there and play hard. In a perfect world, we add a shooter to this dynamic of our team. But again, we won't talk trade. We don't know what's going to happen with that yet. So for me, just keep fighting.
Believe it or not, I'm expecting for this front office to be way more aggressive than past years in this NBA trade deadline.
I think so too.
I don't know how aggressive. I don't know if it's going to be big. I don't know if it's going to be small. I just believe that something is going to happen. Don't know what, but that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm expecting. So NBA trade deadline is close, around the corner. So that's going to be exciting to see. We could have a different team, different dynamic for sure.
Could we see Oki?
What's that?
Could we see Oki? Like, could we see him at all? Possibly.
I doubt it.
Okiki?
Yeah.
Yeah, I doubt it. I'm hoping to hear some type of update. The last update that we've gotten from him was his photo shoot with Lakeland. But that's the most that we got. So, and then we got some news today that Justin, we're gonna have an article coming out soon on the Zone BB, an update with Okiki. So we'll definitely be on the lookout for that. Other than that, really good episode, guys. Not bad for a mid-season special. And that's a wrap for us.
Thank you for listening to the OZone podcast, the voice of Magic fans.
Be sure to visit our website, theozonepod.com, and remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on all your favorite podcast listening platforms.